Well, good morning, Lawrence. Thomas, long time no see. Good to see you. I saw your name registered. It's great to have you join us this morning. Crystal, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I hope everyone is well and recovering from our virtual Thanksgiving. Although food was probably not virtual. Elizabeth, good morning. Welcome to PIDC. It is 10:24 and we are scheduled to begin at 10:30. We only have 1 hour today and we have a lot of information to cover. So we want to make sure we give our presenter all the time that is needed for this. And any information that we need to continue, or if we're not spending enough time on a particular subject where you have questions, we will certainly schedule a part 2 to this to make sure that you have clarity on the information that's being presented, that all of your questions are being answered. We also invite you to join PIDC on all of our webinars. You can find information on our website. If you just log in to PIDC, we'll put our web address in the chat box and you'll see every webinar that we have scheduled. One of the things that we have been doing over the last few months is running our series on Is It Just Me? Your mental health during the time of COVID-19 and civil unrest. We know these have been very challenging times, and oftentimes business owners feel alone and don't know if other people are sharing their same emotions or feelings. Sometimes it's behavioral health. And so we have partnered with the Scattergood Foundation and Spectrum Health Services to present this series, Is It Just Me? And we are here to tell you it is not just you. So this is a 6-month series. We started in October. We are hosting it the 3rd Tuesday of each month for just 1 hour. And that is from 9 until 10. The first webinar that we did in this series was Grieving and Healing during COVID-19. The second webinar in November was The Stress of Structural Racism and Civil Unrest. And you can find recordings of those webinars on our website, and we will also post that address in the chat where you can go back and replay those presentations. We hope you will find them valuable to understanding where you are as a business owner, just dealing with the pandemic, dealing with adverse impacts in your business, dealing with your personal life. In December, which is coming up on next week, which is December 15th, our topic on that Tuesday is the stress of distance or virtual learning for the business owner who is a parent, or maybe you're a guardian or a grandparent and you are helping children learn in this virtual environment, which can add a level of stress in addition to you as the business owner trying to run your enterprise. And so on next Tuesday, December 15th at 9 o'clock, a.m. for just 1 hour. We will address the stress of distance and virtual learning. And one of the reasons that we are doing it at 9 o'clock in the morning is that so many parents are able to get their children started at 8 o'clock or 8:30 in the morning until about noon. And so we purposely scheduled these webinars to be able to reach the business owner who is a parent who can participate in webinars at the same time that their children are engaged with their virtual learning. All of these will be posted on the PIDC website. Make sure you're signing up. You must sign up for each webinar separately, and we will continue in January, February, and March. And then we have a whole host of webinars that we're offering in January. Sales to the left, marketing to the right. People often confuse the two and think they're the same. They are not the same. And so we invite you to join us on Tuesday, January 26th for Sales to the Left, Marketing to the Right. Our construction series, many of you are in the construction industry. This is a foundational series that we offer in February. So beginning on February 2nd, 9 o'clock in the morning, we will start this 4-part series. For those of you who are accustomed to coming to PIDC face-to-face, we have tried our best to transition into a virtual environment and still provide you with the high quality content that you have become accustomed to receiving. So make sure you're signing up for these webinars. You know these webinars are offered to you free of charge. We are fortunate to have very high quality subject matter experts who don't charge us. And so we don't charge you. One of the things that we always say when you come into the PIDC offices, please take advantage of the subject matter experts who are free while you are in the room. And so today, subject matter experts are free while we are on the webinar. But as soon as we log off the webinar, if you need their support, then we encourage you. You're going to have to pay their going rate. But remember, PIDC is putting our full faith and confidence in our presenters. And so when we provide you with a subject matter expert, when you have a need, we encourage you to contact them because we know that you will get the level of professionalism that you have come to expect with our presenters. COVID-19 resources are also available on our website and on our PIDC blog. We record all of these webinars, and so again, go back to the blog, take your time and review the webinars. If you have any questions, feel free to always send us an email and we will respond to you as quickly as possible with the answer as quickly as possible. So it is 10:31 and we want to make sure that we give our presenter all the time that they need. And so it is a pleasure for us this morning. Our subject matter expert is Jeff Bruno, who is the founder and CEO of Your Outsourced CFO. Your Outsourced CFO provides CFO functions within your organization on a temporary basis to primarily make sure that you as a small business have all of the financial systems in place. Not only that you have the systems in place, but you as the business owner are gaining knowledge about the financials in your business. So you have to know the numbers. And so Your Outsourced CFO has been an outstanding partner with PIDC in working with PIDC clients to go into their business, to walk with the business owner through the books, to make sure that your recording and your categories are correct, to making sure that your the information on your business in terms of pricing, making sure all of those things are in order. Most businesses are good at what they do. The lack of growth is because there is a lack of financial understanding. And so Your Outsourced CFO has become one of the go-to organizations in Philadelphia to provide small businesses with that level of support, generally on a temporary basis until you're set on your feet. but they are also available to provide their services on a long-term basis. All businesses need bookkeeping, they need accounting, they need a third party to help them see those errors or those areas where they can improve what they do. And so with that, it's a pleasure to welcome Jeff Bruno and the Your Outsource CFO team with us on today. And so Jeff, take it away.
Excellent. Marla. Oh, sorry, there was a little feedback there. Good. Now we're good. Marla, thank you so much, everyone. Welcome today. I hope this is informative for everyone. And I set this up, asked Marla, and she was very kind to set this up as an interactive session. So if you have a video availability, if you could throw your video on, I might ask for some support here and call on you for some questions and some know-how on your business. The idea here today is we'll talk about general scenarios of what small businesses do to manage their financials as they grow and use them correctly for that purpose. So, and some of the pitfalls to avoid. So I will pull up our PowerPoint here in a second. And we're gonna jump out of COVID here, meaning we're not gonna focus too much on COVID. I'll touch on it a little bit, but it's mainly around strategies as a small business owner. So let me bring up the presentation. Give me 1 minute. Okay, can everyone see the presentation? I believe so. Okay.
Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. So for today, it's financial strategies, avoiding pitfalls, and understanding metrics to accelerate growth. So with every good scenario, it's always good to start with a story. And my story today is about life or death. I know that sounds so horrible in this time, but I bring it up because it's a neurosurgeon's view as CEO of the OR, the operating room. So I think it's relevant to our discussion today as I grew up, my father is a neurosurgeon, Dr. Leonard Bruno, and I grew up under him, hearing and seeing all of the things that he does as a neurosurgeon to manage procedures in the operating room and so on. And as he was doing that and growing up with him, he would often tell me it was like directing an orchestra. A surgeon is the conductor in the operating room. And he would say, you know, I manage the team, I manage the operation. He was responsible for the outcome as the lead on the surgery. We're talking brain tumors, spinal fusions, major surgeries that my father was doing. So there's a certain composure and a managing of that crisis. And there are times where there can be crises in the middle of an operation. So my father was dealing with the metric of life or death. We're talking about metrics today. That was his metric. And I told him I was presenting today and I was going to mention him. And he said, well, funny you say that because he actually is healthy, 75-year-old, still practicing, not surgery, but he does some pain management. And he was telling me how he was doing a injection the other day, and a couple guys, we could all relate to this, a couple guys who were assisting there started talking about the Eagles. We all know how horrible the Eagles are doing this year. And one guy was getting into the fray about it and getting all upset and trying to defend the Eagles. And my father immediately said, that's it. We got to take care of the patient. We have to manage the situation. You're going to get out of the room unless you stop. You're bickering. Immediately he stopped and after apologized to my father for that. So that is one type of management and it's needed. In contrast, as a lot of you are small business owners here, in contrast to running a small business, it's very different. So I find this as my business grows, and I'm sure you do as your business grows, but having everyone's input into your scenario couldn't be more critical to running a small business. Your CFO, your outsourced CFO, that's us, or your COO or other managers on your team. It is so important to have a strategy and goal with metric tracking. And your metric as a small business owner is success or failure, not life or death. So I bring that up. It's important we realize the difference, but it's also important that you use your team and work with your team as a small business owner. So now into the guts of it here. So a phrase we termed is called trickle-down metrics. This is our copyrighted term on how to build your business. So there's a 7-step process that we use to develop the metrics and the strategy around building your business. Now, I want to ask somebody real fast on this webinar. Let's see, who's in here live? Cecilia Torres. Cecilia, I see you there. Do you own a business? Great. Could you release your mute? So just briefly in one sentence, tell me your business and tell me if you can, if you're comfortable, what you would say your why is for building your business. Why you're doing it and what your goal is.
Why is because I provide struggling couples support to get their dream wedding invitation.
I love that. I love it. How do you do it? How do you provide it?
I provide solutions to their problems in a 5-step proven method that I use.
Great, to get their wedding invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So that's an example of her why, and that's a great why, Cecilia. Thank you for that. If you can remute yourself, I appreciate that. So Cecilia's why is how to support couples with their wedding, right? Their wedding situation and so on, how they can build that up and what she does to support that for them to get there. So what she's doing is she's trying to identify what metrics she needs to do that's derived from her why, which is supporting couples. For example, I'll use our why as an example. We at Yo CFO want to help business owners achieve income, improved income. Maybe they want to support their local community. Maybe they want to, whatever it is, we help them achieve those goals by supporting them with data and information so that they can continue to get through pitfalls and manage their business to growth, which ultimately helps them achieve whatever they're trying to do. So it's important as an owner to look out several years and map what you're trying to do and identify these metrics downstream to put together your strategic plan and then map your financials to that. So we do this with every business in the beginning of an engagement. We say, where are you trying to go? And we're going to help you along that road 2, 3, 4 years to get to that outcome. So you identify it, you collect a bunch of data, you monitor the outcomes, you take action, you consistently repeat, and then ideally your business grows. And one of the differences here at Yo CFO that we do is we tie in your operational metrics with your financial metrics, and we look forward. We're not just looking historically. We're looking forward for you on a constant basis by tying these together to make sure that they make sense for your business growth. So that's the framework on how we evaluate engagements. We're not just here to get your reporting fixed, although that's part of our initial foray into your business model. But we're here to really map out your road, your why, towards your why. So now we're going to dive into some things we deal with, some pitfalls, some questions, some areas that small business owners always jump into, especially now at this time of the year. So everybody to bring some real-time scenarios here, and feel free to throw any questions in the chat, by the way, if you have questions as we move along. I'd be happy to answer any of those. So PPP, COVID, the government supported us with PPP. Looks like it's going to be an income add back for us in our books this year. It's going to make our expenses non-deductible, which is added income into our P&Ls for the year as we come to the end of the year. There are a lot of things we need to manage as a small business owner around that, around what do we look like for banking purposes? What do we look like for covenants? A lot of factors you have to consider as a business owner with all of these implications. And we've been working through that with clients. But one of the things a lot of people don't plan for is reinvestment. So I'm going to ask a question to the group here. So let me, Cecilia, I won't pick on you again. Let's see. How about Elizabeth Shack? I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. Could you undo? Yeah, you're mute.
Jeff, and can I ask, when you call on business owners, tell us the name of your company.
Yes,
we want
please.
to be able to promote you during this web.
Please. Great point, Marla.
Okay, so my company is Mount Airy Violins and Bows. We make, sell, rent, and restore violins, violas, and cellos. And your question was?
My question is right here on the, no, my question is right here. What is your number one concern on reinvesting in growth? So if you're thinking about how to reinvest in your business and it's the end of the year, it's December, we're going to have to take care of, we've had a rough year, but we want to get back towards growth. What's your number one thought or concern around reinvesting in your business towards the end of this year?
I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question correctly with the idea of actual reinvestment. I tend to think of what we are going to conserve for that year and what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to have at least $20,000 transfer over into equity into the business. And we are a very unusual business in that we don't try to make, the owner does not try to make a lot of profit for themselves, and I'm the owner.
Okay.
Our goal is to have a business which is viable for artisans to be able to make a living making violins, repairing them. And so we do spread out whatever is not $20,000 between the workers at the shop. And we also buy ahead supplies for the year. So we make sure we have a cushion for all our supplies. We have $20,000 of just profit that we plow into the business, and the rest all goes to the employees. And with that said, within a year and a half, we are working towards becoming a cooperative.
Excellent. Well, Elizabeth, thank you. That was a perfect answer to my question, actually. So if you can remute yourself, that would be great. So basically, what you're saying is you're conserving cash by putting it into equity to help you out in next year, maybe, as you say, to give back to the people who are the musicians and so on who are working on their instruments, or in other ways. And I love your why as well, to help support those artisans. So that is an excellent response. So here are things that we hear all the time, as you can see, Elizabeth, pretty aligned with some of the areas that you are mentioning. Are you investing for variable cost improvement? Is the timing right? Savings sufficient? Are you saving money for what you're trying to help your cause, or maybe just for your business? The biggest one we hear a lot from business owners is, I don't want to pay taxes. It's December. I don't want to pay taxes. I want to prepay things to decrease my tax liability. Rent, insurance, other things. Most small business owners these days are cash filers. So you can prepay things ahead of the next year and things of that nature. So we discuss all of these things with reinvestment. But the reason I bring these topics up as a small business owner, when you're considering this, depending on what your cash position is, these are really important distinctions, these four, on what you're going to do. Let me give you an example. Variable cost improvement. Let's say you have a piece of equipment, Elizabeth, for your example, that helps you repair the cellos faster, okay? But that equipment is $10,000. And you might want to invest in that equipment and fully depreciate it in this year to save on taxes. But then it'll help you do more revenue and likewise help more artisans in the next year, or musicians, with their scenario, because you have a piece of equipment that facilitates it, makes it faster. So that's a variable cost improvement. You're cutting down on the time that your team needs to spend, saving you money. ideally, and getting more work done. This is what businesses need to think. It's better to think that way as a business owner than to think, how do I save tax liability? So in that saving a tax liability, look for improvement in variable cost so you can improve revenue in the subsequent years and provide more of your why to the people you're trying to support. So you also mentioned you like to save $20,000. Is that sufficient? We've had a rough road. We're going into super high infection rates across this whole country. Northeast is going to be a tough winter. Is that enough savings to get you through if people just don't come in? Are there industry headwinds? Is automation taking over your business and people are not coming to repair, in that sense, their instruments? I don't know. I mean, I'm just making things up here, obviously, but these are questions that you would ask yourself as a business owner to make sure you stay ahead of the changes and reinvest in your business in the right way to stay ahead of the changes. It's not just about tax liability. Now, if you have a lot of profit and you know you're going to be in a certain place for the next quarter, the next 6 months, and you can prepay that rent, for example, or prepay that property insurance or that liability insurance, okay, do it. If you feel like you have enough money to get through 6 months, then do it to decrease your tax liability. All about it. And then the last part is this last bullet. Compound annual growth. So if you said to me, I want to exit this business in 4 years. 4 years, I want to exit this business. And I want $2 million. That's my goal. I want to sell it. Whoever's on this scenario. You need a certain compound annual growth rate. You need to make a certain amount of improvement on your net profit or your EBITDA as you grow the business. So you need to reinvest to make sure you can limit your costs and increase your profits. These are all things to consider as a business owner as you come towards the end of this year. And sometimes this is not just a simple, easy scenario. And what we do here is make sure your financials are real time, that your bookkeeping and internal controller teams are getting it right, real time, and in accrual, so you can answer these questions before the end of the year. Any questions on that before I continue? Good, I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, wait, there's a few in the chat here. Let me just make sure. Okay, there's one question. How do I determine what my goal evaluation target should be? Well, that's a good question, but it's hard. You have to look at your EBITDA, which is your earnings before income taxes, depreciation, and amortization, and then look at your industry comparisons to see what in your industry other companies have sold for, if you're looking for that as an option down the road. So it's always good to think early on that. What could be your target? So then you can look at your compound annual growth rate to continue. And one other question here from Elizabeth: what will you be covering the metrics you use to measure growth? Yes, we'll be going over some of those. Thank you, Elizabeth. So here's the next slide. Now this slide is, we're not going to get too in the weeds here, but I want to show you an example of what I'm talking about. So let's say your business is struggling. See this highlight at the top here where it says 40K invested for a $2 million business versus 40K per year in fixed cost savings. So again, we've had a rough year. We're trying to save costs, but you need to think to yourself, where am I going with this business? If I cut my fixed costs, I might not get growth. Is that okay? Are you okay with no growth over the next 3 years? As you see by this part down here, revenue, no growth, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. You're static at 2 million over the next 3 years. Would you as a business owner be okay with that? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Because then maybe you want to cut fixed costs. You want to get some of that dead weight out of there that's only for growth. And you can't grow right at this moment. So you get rid of that 40K and you save money. Save 40K a year. It's great. So your profit with 5% plus 40 per year, it's 140,000. That's great. So over 3 years, you save, if you can see on the far right here, $420,000. It's great. Well, you save $120,000 on top of your normal profit. Okay, maybe you need it. Maybe you need to pay off some debt. Maybe you don't want it. You're not worried about growth at the moment. These are decisions you need to make as a business owner. But if you have the capital and you can reinvest $40K in equipment or people, business development, maybe marketing, I don't know what it might be, whatever could accelerate your growth, and you grow 15% per year, look at the 3-year trajectory on this chart. You can see here, if you look down a few, the profit that you can attain just by a 2% improvement in your GP, your gross profit, over that period. $559,000 in profit over that same 3-year period. What does that mean? That means that $40,000 you just invested, you made 348% on that investment in 3 years, because you had growth and you had an improvement in your gross profit. You can't get that return anywhere. I mean, maybe you bought Tesla a year ago, but outside of that, it's hard to get that kind of growth outside of your business. So keep that in mind, everyone. Your business is the best area for growth. Okay? Any further questions here before I continue? Just want to make sure. Great. So next slide. Some more metrics, Elizabeth, to your point. And please feel free to chime in with any thoughts as we go here. This is an interactive webinar. I'd love to hear any questions. So here's some metrics. Now, if you're a product business, you have to have some sort of inventory, okay? And inventory is a necessary evil, and I hate to use that terminology, but it is sometimes. So anyone here who owns a business who's relying on inventory or product build, could you sort of jump in there and give me your business, if you would? Tell me a little bit about your business. Anyone on here? I can't just pick somebody out because I need a product business or inventory, where inventory factors in. Anybody here have that? Willing to speak up? I'm not getting any takers.
So, it's Crystal here. My business is, I hesitated because we are a toy lending library. So although we do have inventory, it's not new, and I don't really have the overhead of a traditional inventory.
Okay, so it's not direct inventory, meaning are you renting it again and again?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But so we purchase new, or we, mostly put in the time to source used toys.
Okay.
So it's more, the name is Rutabaga Toy Library.
What's your business name?
Rutabaga Toy Library.
Rutabaga Toy Library. Fascinating. I love it. So, yeah, but here's an example. So, if I may, you're still doing product build. So
yes.
You still have to buy the product, and then you essentially have an asset. Okay, it's a used asset, but you have an asset that you're then renting and making money off of.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So it's not inventory that comes in and goes out quickly, but you are product building for market expansion, right?
Yeah, over the pandemic, we've went from 350 items to over 1,000.
Okay, so there you go. Great. That was a perfect example. Thank you very much, Crystal. So Crystal is dealing with market. She is looking to expand her business with market penetration. Okay. And in order to do that, she needs to product build. Okay. She needs to acquire assets. And what do you need to acquire assets? You need cash. So in order to do that, in this crazy world of COVID, cash has been, a hot commodity. So it's important that whatever you're doing for your business, you think into the future. Well, if I need to buy, I don't know, Crystal, your business, and we don't need to get into the details of it, but Crystal might say, I need, to buy 100 books because I'm going to rent out rent them 4 times a year, and I might plan on renting 400 books essentially for the year. So she has to build that inventory. So what she needs to do is have a budget on the first topic here. Is she has it's almost like a loss leader. In her case, it's not, but she needs a budget for that. So when you're looking at your financials and planning for 2021, Crystal has to say, how many books do I need for the next year? And put a budget together that she's going to buy for the whole year, probably, or at least by quarter at a minimum. She has to put a budget together. So there are other companies that consider that loss leaders when they're buying inventory for display, for example, or things like that, where they have it and they have to use it to then sell more inventory or more product. That would be a loss leader. So one of the things that people forget here, and is really important, and the cello and violin business, Elizabeth, is probably important here because you're holding inventory too, is you need a correct beginning and ending inventory tracking. So this is something business owners we run into all the time forget. So if you have $100,000 of inventory at the beginning of the year on your books, and let's say you have $200,000 of inventory at the end of the year on your books, okay? That's $100,000 of profit. That's an extra $100,000 of profit that you have to pay tax on, that you haven't sold yet, that inventory, because of the difference in your inventory. Where it becomes a problem for taxes, and watch out the end of the year here, everybody, do a physical inventory, because stay ahead of this so you can conserve cash. Because if you run into an issue where your books are wrong and you don't have the right number of inventory in there, and oops, I have more inventory than I thought, you're going to pay what we call sometimes phantom income dollars on that inventory. And you haven't sold it, so you don't have the cash. Now, okay, we don't have to pay till April or maybe some estimates in January on taxes, but this is all in consideration of your business. So be very careful how you manage that, and don't over inventory towards the end of a year, unless, do it in January if you can. So here are some metrics that we look at, okay, for inventory planning. We look at inventory turns, very important. So how fast does your inventory turn? So if you have $100,000 of inventory and you're selling $400,000 of that inventory, you're turning it 4 times in a year, okay? Now, every business is different on how fast inventory will turn. Depends. 3 times, 6 times, depends on your industry. You want to get the industry data and try to align with that so you can plan accordingly. But if you turn inventory faster, it helps you in 2 ways. More profit, ideally, and more cash. The faster you turn your inventory, the more cash you have in your business. We like to call it this term cash conversion. How fast can you collect money from your customers? How much can you push back your vendors and not pay them? And how much can you turn your inventory? How fast can you turn it? Cash conversion. Critical in managing a business. Those 3 things, most critical. Here's the thing, everybody. You can't get to that unless you have accrual statements. So if you run on cash, you won't know. You won't know your cash conversion. You'll have an idea, but you won't really know. It's important to get your books in accrual for that purpose. GMROI, gross margin return on inventory. Real important here too. So on your inventory, what is your gross margin? All right. Is your gross margin aligned with industry? Is the gross margin on your inventory, is it going up? The reason I bring this up is a very important thing because it plays in with your inventory turns. So what a lot of businesses with inventory will do, Elizabeth, this is important for you, is they'll see their inventory and they'll say, oh, I got a discount to get my inventory out the door. Okay, discount. But then you look at your gross margin return on inventory to see if you're trending in the right stabilized levels for where you want to be for inventory tracking. And sometimes it's important to do that. It's important to sell down your inventory for cash. So don't be too concerned if that's the case. But it also tells you where you could be off on your pricing. If your gross margin return on inventory is not high enough, maybe your pricing's wrong. Maybe you need to increase pricing. So these are important things. Crystal's part, we talked about it, budget targets for market penetration as you're expanding your business. And here's the real important piece. This is for a lot for e-commerce businesses too, is data verification. Okay? Make sure you're verifying what your conversion is. So you want to know a metric here, real important metric is, what do I convert? What do my sales convert? So if I'm an e-commerce business or another type of business, and I have a bunch of stuff out there on the web, and I have inquiries for product purchase, how much of that converts to a sale? 10%? 20%? What is that? So then you know what you need to buy ahead of that known conversion rate for a quarter, 6 months, whatever your sales cycle is. That's another important metric to look at in your business, conversion rate. You study inventory turns, GM ROI, budgets for market penetration, and your conversion rate on sales. You don't need anything else. Don't worry about anything else in your business except watch your cash conversion, but don't worry about anything else. You'll be able to manage an inventory business. Any questions? Let's see. Whoop, hold on. I'm trying to pull up the questions. Give me a second. I see a couple in here. Oh, sorry. It's Marla adding some great information. Thank you, Marla. So next slide, if there aren't any questions. Okay. Service business. Now I need another victim. Who's in the service business on here? I saw one hand raised there. Abigail? Abigail, what's your business?
Genuine Property Solutions Real Estate.
GM Property Solutions in real estate. What type of real estate do you do?
Residential real estate.
Residential sales.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So, okay. So, what was your name again? Sorry, Abigail, right?
You can call me Abby.
Abby, great, Abby. Stay on here, Abby, for 1 second. So residential sales. So you couldn't be a better target for this. Ready?
Uh-oh.
See my first question? When do I hire and who do I hire? So how do you deal with that in your business?
Well, the sales agents are generally independent contractors, but what I've found throughout the years is what my issue is when I market. And after marketing and getting a response from the marketing, it makes me feel as if I have to hire more agents to facilitate the business that comes from derives from the marketing. But when I ease off the marketing, I don't have a greater sense of hire. So I generally seem like I need more bodies when I'm doing a more aggressive marketing campaign.
Excellent point. So I bring that up, and thank you for that, Abigail. That's in the real estate business, very metric-driven business, and marketing is a huge component of it. And what we find with business owners is all the time, we get engaged with them the first couple months. They go, so I want to hire some people. When do I do it? And we're like, whoa, wait. Time out. Okay, what does that mean? So who are we hiring? What are they doing? Are they improving your operation and internally? Are they selling? Are they direct? Are they billable? What are we doing in your business? It's not just about hiring. It's about hiring the right people. You got to get the right people on the bus here to get your business to grow. So that's the question, is who do you hire and when? So in the real estate business, let's jump to the next part of this slide, and I'll tell you. Sorry, my mouse is jumping around a little. Okay. So to your point, Abby, and a lot of other businesses that deal with this in the service industry, what is my availability of capital or operating profits to pay ahead of the revenues? So in real estate, you say, hey, well, I need the agents to get the deals done. I need my internal people to help do the, close process. But I'm not sure I'm going to get all these revenues. So what would you look at in the real estate business? You would look at your listing volume or your potential buying volume that you might know. You might have some metrics on your buying volume. You would look at those two and you'd say, you know what, at these levels, I'm good. My marketing is a 8-to-1 return, gets me that many listings. I'm going to ratchet up the marketing and I know I'm going to get that many listings and I need this many agents. So that's how you run it on the real estate side. So it's really, for a lot of other businesses, it's really about, do I have the operating profits to, quote unquote, pay ahead of the revenues? So this is what people struggle with in a direct business. So when do I hire the business development person? When do I hire the billable function that actually makes the revenue, does the revenue? Software development firm. When do I hire a developer to work on the project? Well, I need the work. So that's the big tug with a service business. So you need to have a budget in place to make sure you can bring in the business development and put that in play and have it consistent. And then you have to look at all of these different metrics here. Elizabeth, I'm going to pick on you because you asked, but more metrics here. Now, not as much your business, but here are more important metrics for a service business versus a product business. And of course, there's overlap with these metrics as there's people in a product business. So, but in a service business, important metrics: utility percentage, multiplier. A lot of businesses, you got to look at overhead rate, revenue and profit per employee. So as we go through this, if there are any questions, please let me know. Whoops, sorry. So here's the importance of these. And I know we have about 20 minutes, Marla, so I'm on it. So utility percentage. Can I get my people to 75% utilized? Remember, everyone, don't forget about vacations. Don't forget about sickness, especially look at our times now. Don't forget about regulations, mandatory leave in some cities like Philadelphia. You have to put that all into play when you think about utility. Nobody's 100% utilized. They're never. They take 2, 3, 4 weeks off between holidays and things for a year. So you're getting down to 85, 90% at most. So you want to target realistic utility rates on your people. And then those utility rates, let's say they're, oh, thanks, Chris. How do you calculate utility? So how you quickly calculate utilities, you look at your total hours available to you in a 40-hour work week. That's 2,080 hours per year. You then say, how many hours is this person going to be busy during the week? So you then calculate, and can they really be that busy? Can they really work on that? Or do they have to do some proposal work or some admin work? Can they really work on just the revenue for that percentage? High-end scenarios are 75 to 80%. High-end. Medium, 65 to 75. Low is under that in a service-type business as general areas of utility. So there's a bunch of questions coming through here, but I'll keep going. So then this is important. When you take the utility percentage, you then look at your multiplier. Let me explain that. If you have a person that costs you $50,000, forget about taxes and all that. We're just looking at $50,000. You want to look at what your multiplier is on that person of revenue. How much revenue can that person do? So that $50,000 person could do, let's say, $100,000 in revenue, okay? If they can do $100,000 in revenue for a $50,000 person, then you have a 2 times multiplier on that person, okay? Most businesses successful with multipliers in a billable model need to be greater than 2, and most are 2.5 to 3 to make enough money on your labor. Of course, depending on your industry. So that's how multipliers tie into utility. If somebody's 75% utilized of their time on revenue, whatever their multiplier rate is, determines how much revenue that person can do. It's that simple. And you got to track that every month. Then you have an overhead rate. You have a certain amount of fixed costs, might be 5%, 10%, whatever that may be, that you throw into the mix of an added cost structure on your business when you're pricing things. So it depends what industry you're in. That can vary wildly. I don't want to get too much in the weeds there because there's so much variability in that, but that is another factor. And then a lot of businesses like to track revenue and profit per employee. That's a good thing to look at, especially in service business. How much revenue, as we're talking about, utility, multiplier. Okay, now I know how much John's going to do in revenue. So if I take all of my employees, how much is my business going to do as a whole, revenue per employee? And then profit per employee. Great metrics to put in your plan for a business. Now what are these metrics? These are all operational. None of these are financial. They all tie into your financials, but they're not financial. This is what we do with all of our businesses is we say, give me these so I can manage these. Give me the operational and I can manage the financial for you to grow your business. If you don't give me the operational, I can't manage the financial. It's that simple. So just managing the financials are not going to get you there. It's real important. Abby asked another question. Would having part-time staff be more cost effective? Absolutely, Abby. Absolutely. So the only problem with part-time staff is managing them. You know, managing people is difficult in a service business. So managing part-time people can be even harder. So I'm all about it, but managing that is really tricky. So, but that's a variable expense especially if they're hourly. So that's always advantageous for you to have part-time if you can manage that. So any further questions? I'm going to jump to the next one. Okay. Here's something I love people to get. This is a huge thing for business owners. Okay. Contribution margin is the only true north. You're like, what is contribution margin? So, all right, before I start real quick, I see a question. I just want to jump on it real fast. Douglas, thank you. Hi, Jeff. My business is service-oriented too. I've been an environmental consultant. Douglas, oh my God, we're big in that arena. That's one of our big arenas.
Okay.
Environmental consultant as a subcontractor for the city since 2013. The pandemic really disrupted my work and industry. How to best grow when you've been locked in with one single client? Well, Douglas, thanks for that question.
And what is Douglas's business name?
Yes, Douglas. Douglas is muted. Go ahead, Douglas. Unmute yourself.
Why?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I should be unmuted, right?
Yes,
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
me? Okay. Are you asking what
What
my
is your business? Yes.
Yeah, so I've been a stormwater property assessor for the rain check program in Philadelphia. It's part of the water department's green infrastructure program to mitigate pollution.
What's your company name?
Home Science
What's your company name?
LLC. Home Science LLC. And so I've been doing this for, I'm sorry, my dog's kind of going a little crazy right now. Eating.
I see. You've been doing it since 2013, Douglas.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've been in the program that long, and or been subcontracted with the city, and essentially it's been full time. So there hasn't really been the need to diversify or get other clients, but COVID just shut down, my work during the time that they closed the state, and then the budget got defunded 70% for the program.
From the water department.
From the water department.
Yeah. Let me jump on that just in lieu of time here, Douglas. Let me keep running, but
Okay.
I understand where you're coming from. Thank you. So yeah, the water department, PWD, has been, I've heard some budget cuts. We have some other clients that have been involved with PWD, Douglas, and we've seen some budget cuts as well. So, I mean, I know you've heard this before, but the answer there is diversification. And it's sometimes it's hard when you're within the government space to diversify. I get that. What some other clients have done is they'll do sub work for some commercial pieces, and they'll do sub work, or in your case, maybe even prime work if you can be a prime, in other circumstances for smaller projects, maybe that are a little tilted toward commercial. So really with government, it's commercial and government, mixing those together because each have their problems. Government's guaranteed pay, slow pay, but guaranteed pay. Commercial can be, they might not even pay you. So there are a lot of problems there.
And the government thing, the problem is adjusting because the government, when you work for the government, they're providing all the leads, the marketing, everything. You just have to kind of present your credentials to the clients that you're working with, and that's it. So now I'm on my own, and I have to really ramp up like marketing and getting getting customers and all sorts of stuff.
I totally understand. Thank you, Douglas. That was helpful, very helpful. If you could remute yourself, we'll finish this up. Thank you. Thank you, sir. So Douglas brings up a great point is, with government, they'll feed you leads, they'll be consistent, they'll contract with you sometimes 2 or 3 years as a service business, and that is huge security. But what I found with the government, and I'll take Philly out of this equation, but more with like the federal government, is they don't necessarily care about you. So if things change in the government and policy changes, they're going to go with policy. So it's always good to diversify your process, but then you have to pay for some of that. So dabble in it, Douglas, dabble in it. Try some little things here or there. Try to get some traction. That's the best advice to give it for you. But let's quickly dive in just due to time. We have about 10 minutes or so. Contribution margin. This is an important topic I want everyone to get, okay? So I'm going to jump on here and in lieu of time, not ask questions, but why is it so important? It's variable versus fixed, everyone. So Abby brought it up with part-time people. Doug is talking about it a little bit with government versus non-government, okay? There are other things here. Variable expense in the definition for finance is not an expense that sometimes comes in and out. It's an expense when you're thinking about contribution margin that is tied precisely to your revenues. So it's an expense that moves up and down with your revenues. That's how you determine contribution margin. Stop. That's it. Credit card fees. What do? As small as that, they move up and down with your revenues. Okay? That's a function on revenue. That's something to think about with contribution margin. Okay? Versus fixed expense. What do I need? Pay myself, pay sales team, these type of things to keep my business moving. That's an important distinction here. So I'm going to quickly move through this. So when you accelerate growth as a business owner, you're thinking 2-3 years down the road. You're thinking, what do I do to accelerate growth? Do I worry about contribution margin or do I worry about net profit, EBITDA? I think every business owner at first thinks, well, net profit. Sure, I got to worry about net profit. Now, yes, you need to be profitable, okay? But I'm less concerned about net profit than I am about managing your contribution margin to scale your business. It's real important to do that. And why is it real important to do that? Because of all of these scenarios, okay? When you're looking at growing a business, you have to know how these scenarios come into play. So Elizabeth, Crystal, Abby, everybody who's been chatting, Doug, here are things you need to be careful of as you scale your business. Inventory management. Warehousing versus third-party logistics. How much do I do internal versus external? Where's my cost savings on that? Contribution margin changes in my business model. Labor hiring and benchmarking. And profit targets. You can target all of these. How much inventory? What profit do I want? When can I hire? When do I need to outsource versus keep internal warehousing? okay? You can think about all of these things, but only if you know your break even. Because a lot of these can be variable components in your business as you grow. So you need to know what that is contribution margin wise to know how much you can invest, to know what your sales function are to cover that investment. That's why contribution is so important. And slight moves in contribution margin make you much more gross profit and ultimately much more profit than managing to net profit. That's why it's important in scaling your business. So if I can quickly show you that. I know this is a little daunting chart. You'll get this presentation, but I'm gonna show you what the example here. $500,000 business year one. You're growing it every year. By year 5, you're a $2 million business. Okay? You're gonna reinvest in your business and you're gonna get 3% improvement in your gross profit by reinvesting in your business. Let's say you said, I'm not going to reinvest. I'm going to cut my fixed costs 3% and do that to save the business, even though I'm still going to grow. Here's an example of 3% savings in GP versus 3% savings in fixed cost. In this analysis, your gross profit or contribution margin, similar in a lot of businesses, GP and contribution margin, is 50%. 50%. So you could see the difference as your business grows. This is NP before, which is net profit adjusted with your GP changes or your contribution margin changes. Look at the jump, and then look at your net profit if your fixed costs are 3% improvement over those 5 years. So you could see if you look at the far right, over 5 years, 3% in each category, I am $747,000 in total profit over 5 years versus 644 in profit by decreasing my fixed costs. That is why you need to think about contribution margin and gross profit in growing your business versus just cost cutting and EBITDA or bottom line. You need to think, where am I going with this business in the future? And then when you think about sales, real fast here, here's an important component. Let's go to the higher sales level. Let's say you're a $1.5 million business. Look at the difference in sales here. With a slight tweak to GP, 3%, you need 70,000 less sales in year 4. So you have to generate 70,000 less sales to get to the same net profit with that uptick in GP as before. So that's something to think about. That's how you manage your break even, your contribution margin, and your fixed expenses in there. So as a final wrap up on this, give you an idea. If you say, I'm gonna invest in a salesperson, $100,000 with all in, commission and everything, you have to think, okay, what's my contribution margin? 50%. That means to cover that salary, I need $200,000 in new sales over my regular sales level. 200,000 in new sales just to cover that person, but that's no growth. So then you have to set a target for growth for that salesperson, 400,000 in sales, 500,000 in sales, whatever that may be for your business that you're trying to do. So these are the metrics you need to look at as you continue to grow your business. So I knew there's so much information here, and I knew we would be close here, Marla, to our timing. So I'm glad we got through most of this, but right at the end here, I know we have a few minutes, I want to point out something. And Marla, this is my PIDC shout out for you here. So everyone on this call, where do most people go when they want to go lending? Business size, 0 to $1 million, 1 to 2 million, 2 million to 5. You think banks, I'm going to go to banks. I found this online, some interesting information. CDFIs, which PIDC is a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, CDFIs, 88% approval rate for businesses, for loans. However, if you see here on this graph, only 5% of business owners actually try to get this type of lending in 2017. They go to banks, and banks turn them down because banks are more risk adverse. Because CDFIs are naturally going to do a little bit more riskier investments or loans than banks, a little bit. I don't want to say necessarily too risky, but a little bit more risky. So apply to your CFI. They'll give you some financing that can get you through some of these tough times. Banks are tight right now. So I bring this up not just to talk about PIDC, but really to talk about lending options for you as a small business as you grow. So these are great options for you to think about. And with that, we are really at the end here. Yes, that is the end. And I know we're right up to time, so I wanted to close out here, Marla, with here's our website, info@yocfo.com. Happy to answer questions, our office number, and we have something about lessons learned in crisis, an asset you can download on our site. And hopefully this was informative for metrics and for planning for you. That's it.
Jeff, this was excellent. And what I'd really like is for us to do a part 2.
A part 2.
And the reason I'd want a part 2 is because I know for many of the business owners on the webinar today, some of you are hearing this information for the first time, and hearing it so quickly, you won't be able to absorb it and really apply it the way it should be applied. And so, Jeff, I'm going to ask you, let's do this again, where we can spend a little more time. We will make sure that all the participants get today's presentation.
Great.
We will also have the recording available on our website. But I'm going to ask you if you would come back in January and spend a little more time diving into all of the things that you talked about today. So people get the chance to first review today's information when we send you the presentation, but then you get to come back next month. We'll schedule this in January and give you the opportunity to bring your questions and ask Jeff additional information. It's too important for you to be on the webinar today and not walk away with a full understanding, because we're talking about your business and we want you to be fully engaged and fully aware of the kinds of things that are going to help your business grow, stabilize. So, Jeff, let me ask, so Christopher Chaplin is on. Christopher, anything that you want to add to today's presentation?
No, I just thought that Jeff did an outstanding job. I'd love to see more in terms of the metrics that small businesses can implement. I think a lot of times, and we've seen it here at PIDC, that businesses struggle just to get, basic financial statements out to us. Sure. So I'd love to, hear Jeff probably talk about that a bit and how, small businesses can address that issue, because to even get to the stage where you can use metrics in your business, you have to have some kind of internal financial management system, some kind of reporting system. So, looking forward to part 2 in January.
Great. I also want to call on Carmel Dean. Carmel's one of PIDC's underwriters. Carmel, is there anything you want to add?
No, like Chris said, Jeff, you did an awesome job. One thing that I've been thinking about as you've been working through the presentation is, you mentioned ways and techniques that businesses use to maybe lower their taxes and, how they will impact their financials. I would like to hear more about, how I as an underwriter look at financials and how those changes that you're suggesting are, how those metrics, if you would look at those metrics, how they might change your bank's or your lender's views of your financials as you may be applying for loans, if you understand.
Okay. Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Because ultimately we look at an EBITDA, and if there are changes made, or like if you adopt certain principles with your accounting, how they might, how your lender may look at that.
Absolutely. Sure.
Great. Thank you, Carmel. And then Lawrence McComey, who is another PIDC underwriter who focuses on real estate acquisitions. Lawrence?
Good morning. Yeah, my name is Lawrence McComey. I've been with PIDC in the real estate finance group for the last 8 years. And I thought this was a very valuable seminar, well presented. I was working on a client who I wish was able to attend this to hear that, because they're having some issues, exactly as you were saying, about trying to go to the next level and own their property and develop a business plan going forward. So I thought this was a very valuable resource. I would definitely share the recording with them.
Great. So I want to give a shout out to all of the PI clients who are on this call. I can't call you all out, but we see you. Also want to give a shout out to our former Assistant General Counsel, Tyreek Brooks, who knows, I mean, a lot of you know Tyreek. He helped close so many of the PIDC loans. So we give a shout out to Tyreek, who we still engage. He's moved on to another law firm, but we are fortunate that he continues to work with PIDC as a consultant. So again, Jeff, we're going to schedule, you and I will get together. We will come up with a date in January. We will let everyone on this call know when that date will be. It will be posted on PIDC's website. So for everyone, Jeff, we thank you for the information, and we'll make sure everyone gets today's presentation and the dates. Jasmine, anything you want to add? Jasmine does all of our marketing, and so when you see it all put together on the website, Jasmine and Quinn are taking care of that.
Yes, I just want to say as a reminder, PIDC has helpful resources for the business community through our COVID-19 resource library, social media, monthly newsletter, and business builder webinars. So please take advantage of those. I'll place a link to our website to get those resources in the chat box, and please save them. And we wish all of you all the best during this unprecedented year. So please utilize us as a go-to resource.
Great. So to everyone, thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Remember, on Tuesday of next week, we will have part 3 of our mental health series. And on next week, we will address the stress of virtual learning, distance learning for the business person / parent. So please join us at 9 o'clock on next Tuesday. If you have not already registered, just go to our website. Thank you so much. If we don't see you before the end of the year, we pray that you have a safe holiday season. And for those of you who we don't see on next week for part 3 of our 6-month series, we hope to see you next week. And in fact, I would say, because we are coming into the holiday season, you really need to make sure you are on this webinar next week and get some information that will help guide you and bring stress levels down as we navigate through this pandemic through holiday seasons. So with that, we thank you, everyone, and look forward to seeing you real soon.
Stay safe.
So long.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any parting remarks, Jeff?
What is it? No.
Any parting? Okay, great.
Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
See you soon.